Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
So President Nixon in August 15, 1971, took the dollar off the gold standard so we could print more money, so we could steal your wealth.
And the reason that he decoupled gold from currency was to pay for the Vietnam War.
The dollar will dramatically lose its purchasing power. The more they print, the more it gets diluted. And with Bitcoin, you just can't do that. And so people who understand the concept of money supply being the driver of inflation, then they'll understand why Bitcoin is superior.
So a single politician with the ability to print money can turn employees against employers, can turn the customers against the vendors. They can turn every industry against every other industry. They have people rioting in the streets. And typically, the people don't realize that it's the government that's created the distress, and they blame the shopkeeper or the policeman or the person in the streets for causing their problems. And so you have unnecessary violence. You have human tragedy. Businesses collapse, families collapse, people lose their lives. And it's all because the economy is, in essence, collapsing because the energy is being drained out of the currency.
There has been so much damage caused by broken money over the last 50 years, and more people are feeling left behind.
If you work for a living, you're paid a salary, you're kind of a slave. Well, that's a harsh word, it makes us uncomfortable. But it's true in the sense that you're given a certain amount of money for your time and effort. Therefore, you don't have time for creativity and innovation because you're just doing your job, just punching your ticket. Well, part of that is because your money that you're paid gets less valuable every day. We've been sold a bill of goods that inflation is good for us. That's nonsense. Why should the devaluation of my hard-earned money be good for me? That doesn't make any sense at all. Who it's good for is the people at the tippy top.
How in the world are they going to get ahead if they're operating on this system that doesn't preserve their energy and their work and their time?
So it seems like we're all getting rug pulled. I have a sneaky feeling it's inflation that's taking advantage of us. But what exactly is inflation?
There are two kinds of inflation. There's inflation due to unfortunate acts of God, force majeure. So if the monetary system is being run perfectly, and if there's a tornado or a hurricane, and there's a temporary shortage of goods and services, then prices will go up. And so that is physical inflation. But there's another form of inflation, which is monetary inflation, and this is much more common. And this is generally the source of 98% of inflation in the world, the vast majority of it. And that's when all of the goods and services and assets in a society are priced in a currency that is in and of itself inflationary. So if I price things in the dollar and I double the supply of dollars, the supply of houses doesn't increase, but the supply of dollars does increase, therefore the prices will probably double over time.
Typically, especially if you're going through a hyperinflation, wages do not keep up. They do not keep up. And so inflation eats into purchasing power. You can't buy enough to feed your family.
The average income in this country is now $5,000 less than the average cost of living. Of the cost of basic human needs, food, shelter, and transportation is now $5,000 more than the average person makes, which means if you're in that category, which is most Americans, you now cannot make ends meet.
Here in the United States, they target 2% inflation. They're literally saying we want to steal about 2% of your purchasing power every year. And then we have years like this where the inflation rate is 7 or 8 or 9% higher than normal. That means they're just stealing our purchasing power even that much faster. So there's no honest unit of account for them. It's just a credit-based system. They're just making different numbers on their spreadsheets, and they say, you know what, we're going to create this much more credit this year. We're going to destroy this much more purchasing power. And it's the citizens of the country that pay for that. We're paying for our government to make irresponsible decisions. So yes, I think that's very immoral.
At this point, it's getting very difficult for people to catch up. We're seeing more people working multiple jobs just to make ends meet. We see more dual income households. There's less households where you just have one person that works and one person that stays home and runs the household and the family. Now everybody's working.